Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD, Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today is the 12th of August 2019. So welcome everyone, welcome to this Monday's morning session where we're going to have a look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instruments or products. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay guys, so before we jump in, as always, quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel and our specifically, of course, our videos, and of course you can always subscribe to them in order not to miss any of the upcoming ones. Also, feel free to leave comments after the videos are uploaded, and we'll get back to you shortly, as I know there are a few comments right now. So like I said, I will respond to my comments under my videos, definitely. Yep, like I said, feel free to check us out here. Also, what you could check out is our website, and specifically our JFD research page, where you can go in and have a look at different analysis that we do on a daily basis, and we throw out different, of course, we have produced our daily analysis, and of course quick technical analysis, so on certain instruments. So feel free to check us out here. I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff. But for now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is gold. Quite interesting developments, of course, after we had a nice fantastic run in to the upside on Monday. Of course, gold managed to reach not managed to break the 1500 level, the psychological 1500 level, and also managed to reach the 1510. So now this level becomes first the more important one, because we're going to keep an eye on it, and if we see a push above the 1510, then this break would confirm a forthcoming higher high, and our next target going to be around the 1540. Now the 1540, if I jump back into the daily chart very quickly here, I'll have to scroll down here a little bit. This is what I'm talking about. So the 1540 acted as a good area of support back here, back around the 3rd of April 2013. So these are the levels that we're hitting right now. So for now, of course, like I said, keep your eyes on some of these key important resistance areas, like the 1510. If we get a nice pop above it, then yep, we could consider a further move higher towards that 1540 level. Now, in terms of the downside here, again, of course, if this suddenly drops below the 1490 zone, 1488, something like that, this one right here, then we will consider a possible slide here to the downside. Again, overall, you can see that still it is within an uptrend. It's climbing higher. It's trading above its upside support line taken from the low of the 30th of May, and even, like I said, even if it slides lower, if it continues to drop lower here, in a way, until it's kind of, as long as it remains above this upside line, we will remain positive overall, and we'll continue aiming to the upside. So for now, like I said, keep your eyes on some of these key potential breakout points. So on the upside, we are looking at the 1510. On the downside, 1490, 1488, something like that, approximately around there. And then we will target slightly lower areas. Initially, our first aim is going to be around the 1475, but if that fails, then the 1450 53 zone, that's where we're going to be aiming for as well. Euro dollar, very quickly on this one. So of course, last week, after having a nice push to the upside on Monday. It broke above its key areas, some key areas of resistance. It traveled all the way towards the 1.1250 zone, approximately around there, and got held and then kind of slid back down, but it ended up ranging for the whole week. So in a way, of course, what we're going to do here is we're going to keep it simple. We're going to wait for a clear break through one of the highlighted levels here before kind of examining a further directional move. So in a way, if we see a good push above the 1.1250, then yep, we will aim for the 1.1280 zone. Now, for those who are from the shorter term perspective, also what you could do here is just keep an eye on this 1.1223 zone, 25, 23, something like that. And if we start seeing a push above this could increase the chances for a further move higher here towards this 1.1250. But the only thing is that, again, this is going to be our very kind of tricky zone here, because it might get held near one of these highs. So, and that's why, guys, for now, like I said, we'll just keep it careful, and we'll wait for a push above the 1.1250 before aiming for higher levels. In terms of the downside here, of course, we need to see a drop below the 1.1163, something like that, approximately around there, this zone, and only then we will consider a move back towards the 1.11 area. Now, again, some of you might probably speculate here and see a potential flag formation, which of course, or flat or pennant even, which tend to break to the direction of the prevailing trend, in this case to the upside. So but again, for now, we're going to be very careful. Like I said, we'd rather take a cautious approach here and wait for a confirmation break before of one of our levels, and before kind of examining like a further directional move. So keep your eyes on this one. EURGBP. Now this is quite interesting. Now ignore this spike, because this is, for some reason, here on TradingView we do have this move higher here on Friday. I mean, it shows that the pair managed to reach a level near the almost near the 0.94 zone, but to be honest, it kind of didn't quite happen. Basically, we can see that the pair ended the day near the 0.9310, maybe slightly above it, but you can see that this morning, I mean, it's currently getting held here slightly below the pivot, which is around the 0.9335. But overall, in general, I mean, of course, about a couple of weeks ago, it was still closer to the 0.90 level, 0.91, and you can see this kind of depreciation of the pound against the euro. I mean, the pound continues to get hammered, and we can see that by looking at other pairs as well. But for now, looking at this picture, and probably I need to clear this a little bit because some of the levels are becoming irrelevant. And basically, what we're going to do here is we're going to simplify it. You can see that we are trading still above this tentative upside support line taken from the low of the 25th of July, and it traveled nicely to the upside. Again, I'll say this: we are quite overstretched to the upside. Then again, I mean, looking at even the weekly chart, for example, you can see how overstretched we are. I mean, this has been the 13th week, if I'm not mistaken, that EURGBP closed in the positive territory. So that's why, guys, we're gonna still be very careful. I do understand it's quite overstretched to the upside. I'm also waiting for that little maybe correction here, where we will see maybe a nice throwback here. But for now, I mean, if we see a small correction to the downside, as long as it remains trading above this, from the short-term perspective, of course, if it remains trading above this upside support line, we will continue aiming higher. But if we see a drop below this upside line and a drop below this little level right here, the 0.9250, approximately around there, and let me just actually quickly mark this one and highlight this one just for our future reference. This is where we're going to be keeping an eye on in terms of the downside. So if we see a drop below this 0.9250, in a way there could be a chance for a slide lower. We could consider maybe a move towards the 0.9190, 0.9170 level, and then we'll take it from there, because like I said, it's a very tricky one, especially with the downside. So that's why for now, like I said, if it slides a little bit lower, if this upside line holds, then we will continue aiming to the upside. If we get a nice break of this upside line and a drop below the 0.9250 level, then we will consider the downside, but we will be very careful, because like I said, like a week ago, we were also testing one of the upside support lines, one of the tentative upside lines here, and it did break it to the downside, but kind of quickly traveled back above it. So that's why be very careful here with lower levels. But again, like I said, at least for now, what we can do is just try to find that potential breaking point in order to capture at least a small swing here somewhere. So like I said, keep your eyes on some of these levels. In terms of the upside, well, one interesting thing I really wanted to show you guys, of course, is on this one is the weekly chart, and we are balancing now at a very interesting spot. So you can see that this is the high. This is the high of August 2017, and this is where the pair is stuck right now. But the only thing is that if it continues pushing further up here, if it continues climbing, and we see a further push towards the 94 zone, in a way, what I want you kind of to keep in mind is this level right here. Now this is the highest point of 2008, and this is basically near the 0.98 level. And let me just quickly put a magnet here. There we go. So that's almost near the 0.98 level. So basically this is could be a nice target as well, something to keep an eye on. But again, be very careful here on this one. Like I said, we are quite overstretched on one hand. On the other, we were overstretched here, but look where it ended up going. So keep your eyes on this one. GBPUSD. So while I'm still here on the weekly, I can see that this nice good slide. But if we jump into 4-hour chart here, of course the pound continues to get hammered, and it continues to trade from the short-term perspective. It continues to trade below this downside resistance line taken from the high of May 2019. So this May, of course. And this is what I was talking about last week, and basically I was saying that if we see a drop below the 1.2080, this increases the chances for the pair to travel lower here towards the psychological 120 level. We're not far from it, and last week, let me just double check this. Oh, actually no, this morning it almost managed to kind of reach that, just fell shy of about 15 pips from reaching that. So in a way, you can see that the bulls are trying to push this one back up a little bit, but to be honest, the pound is very weak, and in a way there is a good possibility we could actually see a nice good test of the psychological 120 level, and or maybe even actually having a nice overshoot here, aiming for the 119.90 or the 119.50. Those are two good potential targets as well. But again, for now you can see that it's trying to recover somewhat, but again, let's see if the bulls actually manage to do that. The only thing is that we'll at least start considering slightly higher levels if we see a push back above the 1.2080, and only then we will maybe target some of these higher levels. But again, we would need to see a push above the 1.2210 before kind of examining a larger correction here. And I'm talking about a larger correction because we're still within this downtrend. GBPCHF, now this is of course all the bulls are getting crushed here if they're trying to enter, and you can see that the pair was kind of trading close to 1.20 zone, or let's say 1.1950 last week, and it ended up moving all the way here back towards the 1.16. We're dropping below the 1.17 level, hitting the area near the 1.1675, something like that. Now of course the pair is still within this downtrend, trading below this kind of tentative downside resistance line taken from the high. Let me just quickly adjust this very quickly, guys. So taken from the highs near the near May, or the highest point of May 2019. So it's still kind of within this downtrend. Of course, it's quite oversold here. The only thing is that, yeah, we might try to capture maybe a retracement here, maybe to the upside. The only thing is that still be very careful with this one, and for now, even if we see a push back to the upside here, if it fails to drive back above the 1.1793 zone, then, well, we could see another leg of selling. I mean, this could come in line with the GBPUSD scenario as well. So that's why, guys, for now, be very careful. Keep your eyes on some of these lower levels. The 1.1650 level, that's what we're going to be targeting first, and if that fails to withhold, well, it could go all the way towards the 1.1533, and that level here, and let me just show you what that level was in the past. The 1533 was let me just need to scroll back further. That's basically near the let me adjust this, near the low of January 2015, so approximately around there, guys. So keep your eyes on some of these levels. It's going to be quite interesting to see how this is going to perform. I mean, and it's going to be very interesting to see when will it find some sort of a good area of support. But for now, as you can see, too close here, 4 hour, there we go. So for now, even though we could see a push higher here, we will class that as a correction, but if it, let's say, travels back above the 1.1793, there could be a possibility maybe to see this one correcting higher, or maybe going back all the way towards this downside line. But again, be very careful with this, and let's see how this is going to perform today. USDCAD very quickly on this one. So kind of shifting my tentative upside line a little bit here, so I had to adjust it again. So from my previous video, so basically this upside line here, this is where we're going to be keeping close eye on. So I'm taking into account this little low here. We did previously, the line was around here, but you can see that it got violated, it got totally ignored. So I'm hoping this line here will be a more clear one. For now, given that it's still within this uptrend, we are kind of aiming more to the upside. The only thing is that we're going to be very careful here, because, like I said previously in one of my previous videos, we need to see a push above, at least a push above the 1.3267, and then we will consider slightly higher levels. These ones right here, the highs of last week. Again, don't get me wrong, it could get held here. It could form something like maybe a double top here and then reverse to the downside. But for those who are more on the cautious side, you could in a way wait until we see a push above the 1.3345. This way, the pair would confirm a forthcoming higher high, and we could see this one pushing higher. Now, again, don't get me wrong, the Canadian dollar is somewhat on the stronger side, but the only thing is that, as you know, that we did have a disappointing data coming out on Friday last week, and in a way, the Canadian Central Bank will have to probably act soon on their interest rates, and there is a possibility maybe to see a cut of the interest rates, which would be a bit of a negative effect on the Canadian dollar. Now, so that's why we're going to be very careful in this one here. Of course, the US dollar is somewhat weak, or sorry, actually wouldn't say that. And let me just double check very quickly the DXY here. So just quick look here. Okay, so this is quite interesting. I mean, it continues to balance above this upside line, even though it did slide to the downside. Again, you can see that this line continues to hold somewhat. We will be very careful with the US dollar as well. I mean, it's still kind of holding on, to be honest. I mean, it's still the bulls are still holding this one. So in a way, if we see a nice push to the upside here and a break above the 97.75 level, this is where we will aim for higher levels, and this could come in line with this idea of USDCAD pushing back to the upside and trading above this upside line. So that's why, guys, for now, probably keep your eyes on some of these key levels. In terms of the downside, the 1.3172 level, that's where we're going to be keeping a close eye on. If we see a drop below this, we will aim for slightly lower levels. We're not going to drag this one too much to the downside. Initially, we will just target the 1.3109, and then we'll take it from there, see what he wants to do. Again, like I said, for now, from the short-term perspective, we are somewhat neutral on this one. We need a clear move through one of our levels before kind of examining a further directional move. And like I said, for now, it's like I said, it's very tricky because on one hand, the Canadian dollar is trying to keep its strength, but even especially against other currencies, but again, with the US dollar here, I mean, the US dollar might outperform the Canadian dollar, so we could see this one pushing back to the upside. So keep your eyes on this one. USDJPY here is a totally different story because we have an increase in the yen buying, and of course the Swiss franc. Basically, the safe havens are in demand right now, given the current problems with China and US trade problems, basically. So the market isn't the investors are moving out, slightly moving out of the riskier assets and going into so-called safe havens, safe haven currencies like the yen and these Swiss franc, and of course safe haven commodities like gold. So that's why we're seeing them accelerating. So USDJPY here, you can see that it now technically it broke this key area of support I was talking about previously in one of my videos, the 105.50, and in a way increases the chances for a further slide lower here towards the 104.78 or the 104.55 zone. So keep your eyes on this one. In terms of the upside, we'll take a very careful approach and wait for a push above the 106.73, 74 zone before kind of examining slightly higher levels. Okay, guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around, and do apologize for running a little bit over my time. But again, like I said, thank you for staying with me. If you want to join me later on at my traders tea time, as always, that's 13:15 GMT. If you have any comments or would like me to cover any certain instruments, please leave a comment after the video is uploaded, and we'll take it from there. I hope you have a wonderful trading day, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.